Hi, welcome to another Spirit Lift Sunday. Today I'm feeling guided to talk about spiritual freedom. Now, I had planned to go live at 11 a.m. Pacific time, but my morning got away with me because I've been on the phone all morning. There are some things happening in the world of freedom, financial freedom. So financial freedom is also part of spiritual freedom. And I'm here on behalf of helping to liberate humanity from what I call the fear-based reality we've been living in and freedom from fear-based beliefs. So, what is spiritual freedom? Spiritual freedom ultimately is freedom from fear. It's freedom from the fear-based reality we've been living in, which is that most of the choices we make by default are based in fear. All of our systems are based in fear. All of our entertainment is based in fear. Even our religiosities are based in fear. And I know that sounds a little strange, but it's what I call fear disguised as love. So fear is so good at deceiving that it is really difficult to recognize until you make a conscious effort to begin to ask, is this based in fear or is this based in love? And that requires stilling your mind, going deep within and communing with spirit, with source, with God, with inspiration, whatever your name is for that, with your higher self, and asking, how can I see this through the eyes of love? And as you start to see through the eyes of love, all of the controls of fear, the perceptions of fear start to melt away because you can now see it through higher understanding. So fear and love are, they're all aspects of all that is. So source, God, universe, whatever your name is for the all that is, the all-knowing, all-loving, all light, all truth, all is all that is, which means that it also includes fear. So fear is simply the lowest vibration of love. So if God is love and love is all that is, and love has no gender, then love is it. Like, love is the stuff that everything is made of. It's the stuff that we're made out of. It's the stuff that everything in the universe is made of. And so then understanding that fear is also love, but it's the lowest vibration of love. And it wasn't meant to be used as a means of control. It's only meant to be used as a medium for growth. It's only intended to be used for self-preservation. It was never intended to be used as an energy that encapsulates every system on earth and every thought and every choice and every action, which is what it has become. And there are some individuals who have intentionally used fear over thousands of years to control humanity. And that's what is starting to break loose. And as fear is starting to break loose from the human field, it's very frightening for people who don't understand that this is actually for our own good, for all hell to break loose, for all fear to break loose. And it actually, as it's falling apart, fear tries even harder to maintain its control and keep humanity in the darkness. And so for right now, what we're seeing is that last desperate attempt of fear and darkness to retain control over humanity. That's why it feels so dark, and that's why there's so much division and so much fear in the world right now, because we're at the end of dismantling all of it. When we dismantle fear from our lives, that's when we experience spiritual freedom. That's ultimately what Yeshua, as I prefer to call him, came to teach. He came to teach spiritual freedom. But even his own words were then turned into a fear-based religion. And that the spiritual freedom he taught then became controlled in a container of, if you do it my way, then you get the benefits. And that's not at all what he taught. What he came to teach was, when you follow his lead, his guidance, his example, then you experience spiritual freedom. It was never about we having to be slaves to this, to fear, and that only through him can we find spiritual freedom. That was one of the greatest misinterpretations ever known to humankind, and unfortunately it has kept billions and billions of people enslaved to the middleman of religion. And that spiritual freedom is actually closer to freedom from religion than freedom of religion, because what happens is that when we start to recognize our fear-based beliefs and we work through them and we process them, then our heart, our spirit, our soul becomes free of all these fear-based beliefs that try to keep us confined in this fear-based density, and we find love and spirit and freedom within ourselves. That's, we are all one with God, and we are all have direct access to Source. And that belief that there's only one way to get there is a fear-based belief in itself. That's going to be probably the hardest belief for humanity, the hardest fear-based belief for humanity to accept once all these fear-based beliefs are brought to the surface. So for right now, that's a collective fear-based belief that we will have to wrangle with at some point. For ourselves individually, it's about learning how to liberate ourselves, that spiritual freedom within ourselves, of learning how to process the fear-based beliefs that have attempted to control us throughout our life. So we have our individual fear-based beliefs, and there are collective fear-based beliefs. Well, in order to process the collective fear-based beliefs and for humanity as a whole to experience spiritual freedom, we need to each be willing to do that work within ourselves. Once we free ourselves from our fear-based beliefs and we find that inner peace, that beautiful peace and heaven on earth that's possible within every single one of us, then we can expand that outward into the world. So there's so many people who are running around right now trying to liberate humanity from the collective fear-based beliefs without having done any of their own inner work. And in order to get to heaven on earth within ourselves, we need to be willing to do our own inner work to find the peace within ourselves and find the spiritual freedom within ourselves before we can manifest it outward for the entire planet. Because each one of us, our own individual energy, is what feeds into the entire collective of humanity. So when enough of us do our own inner work, when enough of us liberate ourselves from these fear-based beliefs, and we find spiritual freedom and peace and heaven on earth within ourselves, we feed that into the collective. And then what happens, just through sheer alchemy, because of the way it works, is that all those other fear-based beliefs start to just melt away. And then all that's left is peace on earth. So many people are trying to force peace on earth by forcing the exposure of collective corruption without doing the work that's necessary to recognize how it's played out in their own lives, and to do the work within their self to remove all the controls of fear within their own individual human experience. So this holds true with prosperity as well. So one of the places that humanity has been most controlled is through fear-based beliefs about money. One of the greatest lies ever told to humanity is the love of money is the root of all evil. That is a fear-based belief, and it was created to keep money out of the hands of the people and only in the hands of those who use it for fear, greed, and control. The real interpretation is the lust of money is the root of all evil, not love. Love is all about harmony and peace and generosity and wanting everyone to succeed and everyone to feel the peace that comes with being liberated from fear. So as you can see with even just that one quote, how it was misinterpreted to keep humanity in fear and control. So what we all need to be focusing on, if we are to create heaven on earth and the golden age of humanity and peace on earth, it begins first with a willingness to deep dive into our own personal beliefs and our own personal experiences and understand what spiritual freedom really is. Now, I'm going to share something else with you that I think some people are going to be very unhappy to hear, but I'm here to teach spiritual freedom. That actually is my soul's purpose on the planet. And one of the things that people need to understand is this concept of sin. Sin, the concept of sin itself was created by religion to keep us under control, so that we have to go through religion in order to access God, in order to access heaven. Now, what I've been shown and what I know is that there really is no such thing as sin. The word sin actually simply means to miss the mark, to mistake. And so if you imagine in like a game of archery, you shoot the arrow and the arrow misses the mark. That's basically what the word sin means. It doesn't mean that you need to like grovel over it and hold yourself in shame over it and all those, and blame. Shame and blame are actually fear-based energies. So we hold ourselves in all these fear-based energies over a mistake. These are actually simply learning lessons. So we are given freedom of choice. Free will choice is the prime directive on our planet. We choose every choice that we make. Now, sometimes the choices that we're making are what I call blind compliance. So a lot of the information that we're being fed is to get us to comply without it being a conscious choice. So there is blind compliance, but we're still making a choice. It's kind of a loophole that's been found in the freedom of choice directive, and that loophole is going to be closed up. However, it is still active right now. So as that loophole gets closed up and conscious choices return to the planet, right now a lot of people are making unconscious choices based on what they're told to choose. So again, that's all based in fear disguised as love. Now, this idea of sin is all about keeping people in guilt and shame and less thanness, so that we have to go through our religiosities to get to God. And that's all based in fear. Every mistake is an opportunity for a retake. Every mistake is simply a learning lesson, and once we find the learning lesson, we no longer make the same mistake. Once we find the learning lesson within the mistake, we're able to let go of all the fear-based associations to that experience. So spiritual freedom really is about recognizing every one of our experiences, our life experiences, extracting the lessons from them, so they no longer have any kind of fear-based energies or any controls over us. We free ourselves from the fear-based associations to those experiences. And when we do, our spirit becomes free. No one needs to die to get to heaven, because you can find it right here within yourself. And that's what spiritual freedom is, and that's what Yeshua was trying to teach. It wasn't about him taking our sins on. It was about him trying to teach us that sins are, they're just mistakes and learning from mistakes. All that stuff that the dark side, there were some people who worked on the side of the dark who created Christianity and took the teachings of Christ and manipulated them to be all about fear and control. So if you can control the people and tell them they're bad and tell them they're sinful and tell them the only way through them is if you pay penance through the religiosity, then you have them basically enslaved to the system of belief. So this is not going to be a popular conversation, but at the same time, if we are going to experience heaven on earth and peace on earth, we need to be willing to look at every single one of our beliefs and understand that if the corruption exists in politics and in business and in all of our other systems, they exist in our religiosities as well. None of the systems are untouched by the control of fear. And this is going to be really, really hard for a lot of people to wrangle with, because human beings have their soul's eternity tied to their fear-based beliefs in religiosity. And that that we need to be willing to look at every single one of our beliefs, what we believe about our personal experiences, what we believe about people and things around us, what we believe about our own, about the systems, about governments. All of our beliefs are being brought up to question to determine if they really are based in love, or if they're based in fear, or if they're fear disguised as love. And when we start to look at every single one of our beliefs about every possible thing, that's when we can start to experience spiritual freedom, because you can take yourself back to the beginning of this physical experience, the great human experience, as I call it, in this one lifetime, and extrapolate. Okay, boom, 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 boom. All those things that you were that you were taught to call sins, look back and reframe them as lessons, and then what is the lesson that you can learn from that experience? Because once you learn the lesson from that experience, the guilt and the shame from that experience naturally falls away. That's what forgiveness is. Forgiveness means already given. So Source, God, Creator, has already given that to us. We just need to find it within ourselves. And so as long as we're walking around this world holding ourselves in shame, holding ourselves in blame, holding ourselves in againstness, holding ourselves in unworthiness, we are unknowingly carrying with us this baggage that is fear-based. So until we learn how to unload all that baggage, we're going to take it with us. And then there's this, you got to process your life. You got to process your life now while you're in physical form, or process your life after you leave. I suggest processing your life now so that you can spend the rest of your life in the bliss of spiritual freedom. And yes, the processing of life and processing of beliefs and processing of experiences can be painful. It can be very uncomfortable, because it will cause you to bring up all the stories that you might have swept under the rug and don't want to look at. It might cause you to bring up all of the beliefs that you just are unconsciously believing because it's what you've been told to believe about everything. And yet, if you want to experience a heaven on earth, you need to be willing to look at all of your baggage, separate the fear-based beliefs from pure, absolute, unconditional love, which is the love that is all things, and let go of everything that is not that. And extract the lessons from the experiences that you've had, and even extract the lessons from the hand-me-down beliefs that have come down to you through centuries of either our religious beliefs, our political beliefs, everything, because everything in our human experience is based in belief. Our beliefs create our reality. So if we're going to create a new reality, we have to be willing to look at all of our beliefs and decide what we will and won't take with us. What is fear-based, what needs to be transmuted, what needs to be dissolved. There are a lot of contracts and agreements that we've made throughout our lifetime and throughout our lifetimes that don't serve our highest and greatest good. We need to be willing to look at all of our contracts, agreements that a lot of times are made unconsciously, and be willing to let all of those go, because they're most likely based in fear as well. So an overall example of what a fear-based belief looks like is, if blank, then blank. If you do this, then you get this. That if creates a restriction on our ability to be fully expansive, because ifs are kind of, they squeeze us into fear. And once we let go of that and just understand every single one of us are here as love, having a human experience, and that human experience is all about coming here to learn and grow, the soul's evolution of growth, and understanding and learning. This is a learning planet. We came here for learning, not for being enslaved to our beliefs. And we came here with the prime directive of freedom of choice so that we could choose what we wanted to learn through, and then choose how to learn the lessons and then how to transmute them into just compost for us to grow new life through. And so once we get our minds out of the bondage of belief of what we think we have to, what we've been told we have to believe, and start to look at all of those beliefs and ask how to see them through the eyes of love. Look at all those experiences and ask how to see them through the eyes of love. Look at all of our relationships and everything we've ever been taught, and really, with real desire, want to understand where fear is playing a role in our beliefs. Then you can learn how to rise above them and set yourself free from them. And when that happens, what you experience is spiritual freedom. No ifs, no ands, no buts. It's the pure bliss of being spiritually free and perfectly and absolutely aligned with Source, with the love of all that is. And when you're in that, you can begin to experience the entire human experience through the eyes of love, and see even those people that perhaps yesterday you despised, learn to see them through the eyes of love. Does that mean you have to love them in a relationship? Of course not. But there's a difference between the emotional love that we feel and seeing through the eyes of love the infinite possibilities that exist within ourselves and within all life on earth, and being able to see through the eyes of already given, that God's Source infiniteness sees us. So I hope that helps to understand its spiritual freedom. I know it is a process. It is not easy to get there because it's work to have to drudge down through our layers of fear-based beliefs to set ourselves free. And yet it is so well worth the effort. And so I hope that for you, you're willing to set yourself free and experience the heaven and the bliss that is accessible to every single one of us. And so until next time, remember to hold your light so high others can't help but see their own light, because together we all rise and shine. We can't do this ourselves, and we're all meant to work together as one humanity. And as always, get bold, be fearless, and live free.
Be sure to hop on over to my official website at victoriareynolds.com and pick up your free gift, and check out all the other goodies that I have there for you.